Alright, I didn't anticipate doing a follow-up video this quickly, but the developers behind The Day Before just shut down completely, so here I am. This game is an enigma. From the very beginning, it looked too good to be true, but with an industry that's relatively malnourished when it comes to high-quality zombie survival games, people basically wanted it to be true so badly that they fell right into the trap. For anyone who doesn't know, which is likely a lot of people I suspect, The Day Before was one of the most wishlisted games on all of Steam, at least for a time. It was purportedly in development for over 5 years, supposedly. It was advertised as an open-world survival MMO, and it was mired in scandal because every time they were about to release a trailer or a gameplay session or something like that, it would get delayed, canceled, pushed back, or worse yet, it would turn out to be an actual bait and switch, kind of like the game itself. The developers, or rather the marketers or the decision makers, I guess is probably the best way to phrase it, engaged in some of the most disingenuous marketing I've ever seen, leading the world to speculate that the game wasn't even real. But in early December, on the 7th to be precise, a product did launch, a product that is in fact a video game, contrary to what some might say, leading to a realization that yes, they did make something, but also no, this was not the something that they had promised. Still, that being said, tens of thousands of concurrent players tuned in, tried to get into the servers, experienced the game, and it was catapulted to the #1 viewership slot on all of Twitch with ease, because even when the entire gaming world basically knew that the scam was a scam, they were so desperate for it not to be a scam that they went ahead and pretended it wasn't. Hell, even I was deluding myself into a sliver of hope that they might actually stick with the game this time. They never stuck with anything else that they previously released, ever, so I guess I feel like an idiot for even holding on to that sliver in the first place, but yeah, the market was primed, the interest was there, and people so desperately wanted it to be true, they chose to believe it even when all existing evidence was pointing towards the inevitable truth, which is that this game was an elaborate and painfully transparent marketing scam right from the get-go. Let me just read a couple of statements right now, verbatim, so that people can understand just how blatant the chain of events actually is right here. On December 4th, 3 days before a planned early access release window for The Day Before, developer Fntastic posted a statement on social media reading, quote, "To a person who didn't believe in us, we made this game for you, too. We accept any kind of criticism and don't hold a grudge against you. Before we continue moving forward together, kindly allow us to note a few things. Please forgive us for not doing the best marketing and teasers. We learn something new and improve ourselves every single day. Please don't accuse us of scamming. That's not true. We didn't take a penny from anyone. Please don't accuse us of asset flip. That's not true also. Our team worked day and night for 5 years to make our dream game a reality. Please don't underestimate our work. It wasn't easy. We are like you. We worked hard, and we're incredibly happy that our game will finally see the light of day for everyone to explore." End quote. Wow, heartfelt, honest, transparent, except no, not in the slightest, because precisely 1 week later, 4 days after the game had actually launched and capitalized on the hype window of its initial release, the developers released this statement, quote, "Today we announced the closure of Fntastic Studio. Unfortunately, The Day Before has failed financially, and we lack the funds to continue. All income received is being used to pay off debts to our partners. We invested all our efforts, resources, and man-hours into the development of The Day Before, which was our first huge game. We really wanted to release new patches to reveal the full potential of the game, but unfortunately, we don't have the funding to continue the work. It's important to note that we didn't take any money from the public during the development of The Day Before. There were no pre-orders or crowdfunding campaigns. We worked tirelessly for 5 years, pouring our blood, sweat, and tears into the game. At the moment, the future of The Day Before and Prop Night is unknown, but the servers will remain operational. We apologize if we didn't meet your expectations. We did everything within our power, but unfortunately, we miscalculated our capabilities. Creating games is an incredibly challenging endeavor." End quote. What the actual fuck? You didn't take money from players for pre-orders, but you told the entire world that you would be releasing an open-world MMO, massive multiplayer online game, and then released something else completely. After that, 4 days after that, mind you shut down the entire studio after taking people's money, and 1 week before you shut down the studio, you were telling everyone to please not accuse you of scamming. Really, truly, this is one for the gaming history books. Look at this. This is what they were showing 2 years ago, and this is what they started selling 4 days before liquidating their entire company. By the way, they didn't just shut down the company, they also nuked the Discord server, removed a bunch of the falsified tags that the game used to have on Steam. They even nuked the website, like the developer Fntastic website, which has also been taken down and replaced with their statement only. And prior to that, they had consistently tried to get certain aspects of their marketing taken down or deleted because they had lied in that content and made claims that simply did not apply to the game itself. None of this makes any sense. 4 days after the largest cash infusion that they're ever going to get, they say, oh no, we can't afford to keep going, gotta pay back the investors, and then disappear. Yeah, that's a fucking lie. See, I have friends who work in publishing, like video game publishing. I've gotten to know a lot of people over the years that understand the landscape of investment in the industry and video games, etc. And even without that knowledge, it's painfully obvious that the chain of events on display here doesn't make sense. Investors don't provide just enough working capital for the game to be developed and then force liquidate everything 4 days after launch when the title garnered almost 40,000 concurrent players and was topping all of the different leaderboards on various platforms. At $40 a pop, with estimated sales easily in the hundreds of thousands, that's like without question, the developers are currently harvesting millions of dollars from the game release, and the investors do not disrupt that by torpedoing the developers' public reputation, or their future for that matter, and making them announce a full-scale studio shutdown 4 days after launch. It does not happen. Except what makes this even more depressingly hilarious is that the company relied on what they called a culture of volunteering, where unpaid workers would be largely contributing to the development of the game, which requires the question, how then were the bills so high that they forced liquidate 4 days after a very successful launch window to pay back investors? Really? What's going on, guys? Yeah, they pulled that video down as well, basically everything they can find. They've begun scrubbing the internet of everything they possibly can. But there's links out there, there's archives, the evidence exists, and reality is a cruel mistress because she relentlessly remembers when you make promises that aren't true to millions of people over the span of years and then walk away with all the cash. Another funny thing is that they go out of their way, like deliberately out of their way, to say don't accuse us of asset flip. But they absolutely did purchase Unreal Engine asset packs and then use them as the foundation for the bulk of the world. I'm not saying that the entire map is a flipped asset right out of the box, because that's definitely not the case, but enough of the buildings and cars and structures are to a point where they're absolutely, this did not take 5 years. And if it did, it just didn't. So, moot point. Breaking news, by the way, while I wrote the script for this video right now, they deleted their LinkedIn page. They are going full cut and run right now, this very moment. This will genuinely become one of those like, hey, remember that game type situations for years to come, because this is a historic example of just how obvious it can get when a developer decides, you know what, let's just rip everybody off and lie about it. To be fair, I do actually believe that there were some talented developers working on this project. A day after the failed release window, or maybe it was 2 days or 48 hours, whatever, a patch came out which actually significantly helped the netcode, response time, and server infrastructure. There is a foundation here of what could potentially have been a fun experience, and I'm sure a number of workers and volunteers put blood, sweat, and tears into crafting it. There is a grain of truth to that statement. But they never stood a chance, because the decision makers at the company have quite obviously decided that they want to cut bait, turn, and walk away with the cash after overpromising, blatantly lying, and underdelivering. That's honestly a pretty severe understatement, but you get the idea. In my opinion, the game was always intended to be a ripoff, but the secret sauce was how popular it got based off the viral hype of their initial vertical slice demo, which was very obviously just not real at the time. No one expected that, at least that's my guess, which resulted in them double dipping and getting actual investment capital as well as farming the community for launch day scores, or whatever you want to call it, their payday at launch. Partway through, somewhere down the line, they realized, oh dear lord, we actually have to have some sort of game here, and they cobbled something together as fast as they could, resulting in what we see here in front of us now, using a bunch of volunteers so they could get something out there, have everyone purchase it, and then they could walk away. Yeah, they didn't do pre-orders or crowdfunding, but they had you all purchase it, and then they force liquidated the studio. So yeah, I'm getting a refund, you should get a refund, everybody should get a refund. The investors, if they even existed in the first place, probably won't get paid back. Why else would they nuke every single social media page and fragment of information about their company off of the web? Even legitimate bankruptcies don't do that. They don't just purge all the information they can find all at once while saying, bye bye, we're never coming back, and then pasting that everywhere. They engage in a protracted cycle where things are accounted for, divided up, etc., etc. So, yeah, it's a scam. It's a historic scam that a lot of people saw coming, and yet there was a pretty hefty number of people out there hurling insults and trying to defend this game as if that would somehow make a difference. I do hope that all of those righteous defenders take a moment and contemplate how fucking foolish they are. I'm not saying everyone had to scream about the game on social media or criticize the developers and openly call it a scam day in and day out. Like, that's not my point. But the idea that these people would go around to various different channels, on YouTube especially, trying to denigrate and ridicule the game's critics, pretending that those critics weren't making completely valid arguments pretty much every single time. Well, look at yourself in the mirror because you have clown paint on and you're an idiot. It's okay, the world's going to keep on spinning and you'll get over it pretty fast, knowing the type of person that you probably are. But to all the defenders of the day before, you are all, collectively as one, today's honorary dumbass. This one will go down in history as one of the fastest, most obvious, and yet still somehow most disappointing scams in gaming because, I'll say it again, this thing actually had potential. It could have been fun. Some kind of well-executed mashup where The Division meets PUBG meets Escape from Tarkov. Sign me up for that, okay? It sounds genuinely cool. But unfortunately, it just wasn't the day before, and it's never going to be because the developers liquidated the studio. That's it. If you want to support, there are links down below, locals and Patreon, social media, affiliate links, of course, etc., but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.